I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
Today's
More.
You
No.
podcast.
Today I want to discuss some aspects of addiction that are shared in Dr. Phil's book, Real Life. No matter who you are, it's virtually guaranteed that addiction affects your life in some form, whether it be a personal addiction or somebody that you care about having an addiction. And because of this, it's crucial to have awareness surrounding addiction as well as understand how to deal with it, whether it be a personal addiction or an addiction that somebody you care about is dealing with. So I want to define addiction and then from there go through Dr. Phil's addiction audit, as well as his action steps for handling addiction, whether it be personal or an addiction that somebody you care about is dealing with. So addiction is an attraction or pathological attachment to something. Addiction becomes a serious, debilitating circumstance, and it can be characterized by loss of control, preoccupation, narrowing of interests, dishonesty, guilt, and chronic relapse, meaning that you continuously fail to quit the addiction. And to get a better understanding of addiction, I want to go through Dr. Phil's addiction audit. It will help you figure out if you or a loved one is dealing with an addiction. So his audit is 10 questions that should be answered in 4 ways, with either a never, an occasionally, a significantly, or a severely. A never means these thinking patterns have never been present or you have not been aware of them. An occasionally means you have been aware of them, but they have not interfered with your relationships or restricted you from normal personal functioning. Significantly means you have experienced these ideas and thinking every day and have significantly been restricted in your social relationships, personal life, or work in the last 2 weeks. And lastly, a severely means that you have been severely restricted in your relationships, personal life, or work, such that you are incapable of changing your habits or use of substances or engaging in these activities. And before I go through these 10 questions, I do want to make a note that substances is just a word that's kind of a blanket statement being used because most addictions surround substances, but this could also be something like pornography or gambling. So number 1 is I crave a substance because it makes me lose my self-doubt and gives me self-confidence. Then number 2 is I have failed to fulfill promises to stop using this substance or participating in this activity. Next, number 3 is I have a physiological craving for a substance that erases pain and discomfort. From there, 4 is I think about consuming a substance or participating in a behavior more than I think about anything else. Then 5 is I prefer to be alone and consume this substance rather than being seen and observed by others. Then from there, number 6 is participating in the specific activity is my greatest need over anything else. Then number 7 is I find it hard to imagine life without this substance or activity. Next, number 8 is my life is centered around this substance or activity. From here, number 9 is when the substance or activity is not available to me, I become irritated and antisocial. And lastly, number 10 is I have no control over my need for the substance or activity. So to score this test, if you checked severely at least once, you are most likely suffering from a severe addiction and need some professional help. If you check significantly at least twice, it's likely you're dealing with a major addiction, so you should listen up and pay attention for some basic ways to start laying the foundation to deal with this addiction. From here, I now want to go through Dr. Phil's action steps to dealing with an addiction, whether it be personal or an addiction a loved one is going through. And I first want to start with if you're the addict yourself. First, you need to find your personal truth. You must honestly assess why you're addicted to this substance or activity, and what the underlying reasons are. This is really the only way to move forward with your addiction, and this is because you must figure out these underlying reasons so that you can replace them with something else that will fulfill the need, whether it be another activity or just overall self-improvement. And the other thing to do if you're an addict is to consult with an expert. Whether this be a psychologist or rehab, there's immense value in getting help. And now I want to go through Dr. Phil's action steps for if your loved one is the addict. First, you should choose to assist but not enable. Your love can create an enabling effect for the addict, and this enablement in no way helps them getting through their addiction. The next action step is to set up an intervention, and there's 7 considerations when setting up an intervention. The first is to get a team together. Then the next is to make sure that you confront factually, and do so with love, care, and concern. Also, remember that you're talking to the drugs or the activity, not the person. Whatever the addiction may be, it's currently taken over this person. You also need to create a crisis for this troubled person. Providing ultimatums as well as shedding light on possible realities such as overdose will assist the addict in getting to the reality of the situation. Also, focus on purely chemically related issues, and the nature of their brain chemistry being compromised. You must also get a commitment from the addict to go to treatment or be prepared to break the addiction, and also have a firm and immediate plan for doing so. Understanding what addiction is, using Dr. Phil's addiction audit to sense the level of addiction that you may have in your personal life or a loved one has in their life, as well as using his action steps to get through the addiction, will allow you to cope with whatever addictions that you're personally going through or your loved ones are going through. And by doing so, you'll be able to make a positive impact in your life or your loved ones' lives. And this can translate into a life of significance.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
The
More
You
No
Podcast.